You compliments of Beacon Insurance. Insurance is a promise to pay. At Beacon, we keep our promise. Renwick and Thompson and Subway.
And we are definitely live. And of course, you can check out our Facebook page, Power 95 FM Grenada, so you too can be part of the conversation and listening to my conversation this morning with the Prime Minister of Grenada, Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell. He is finally in the room, the ladies' room. Dr. Mitchell, good morning. Welcome. How are you?
I'm fine. And clearly, I'm even better now. I'm in the ladies' room.
It's been a long time. We are so happy to see you finally. So you see, COVID has definitely done a lot of wonderful things because we finally got you here as a result of all that.
That's obvious. That's very obvious.
So how have you been doing otherwise?
Well, as everybody else, we have to coping with the present environment and complete new situation that we had when we celebrated the end of 2019 and looked forward to 2020. We clearly did not know that we would be facing a new dimension in not just Grenada and the Caribbean, but the entire world community. So we have to change our approaches in many areas to confront the problems that we now face at this particular time.
So prior to COVID-19, how are we looking from an economic standpoint? And what were some of the projections your government would have had?
Well, we were looking at 5 to 6% growth with a number of major projects, and of course with the continued expansion of St. George's University activities and more students and multiple other programs are being brought on stream. So, and we were looking very good. Our tourism product was doing well. We were expanding opportunities in many areas. The cruise ship season, the projections was good. But clearly, COVID-19 interfered with all of that. So we've seen our revenue for the first 2 months surpassing the target of the average of $30+ million, surpassing that in both inland revenue and customs. Since COVID, they're less than 50%. This month, it looks like we might reach a 55 to 60% revenue projection as we move towards opening some of our activities gradually. So with the construction sector getting back on stream, I think we'll start seeing some movement there. But it's still a major challenge in terms of what we have to deal with now as opposed to what we had confronted before.
Talking about challenges, as the Prime Minister and of course leader, what are some of the challenges you envision going heading into the rest of the year?
Well, the first priority for us is the issue of the loss of jobs by a large sector of our population. When you look at just Royalton, for example, which was planning to have a major opening very soon and had employed over 300 plus persons and looking at further employment for the opening of their facility. That, of course, we've lost all those jobs during COVID. So I think the emphasis has to be how much of those persons we can regain employment as quickly as possible. So helping the hotel sector to get back on stream would be a priority. And clearly, even when they open, there would not be a level of business that they had envisaged before. So we would clearly understand that they would not be employing all those persons back on immediately. So we'd have to look for additional jobs. So that in itself is a challenge and clearly opportunities that we can create. And in several areas, other hotel properties, or they all will take some time before you start seeing some serious movement in hotel activities in 2020. So it will take, and even going into 2021. So I think the job loss is going to be a major challenge for government, and we have to come up with ways and means of helping and supporting these workers and creating opportunities as best as possible. So I see this as a major challenge going forward. Job creation.
I'm happy you raised the point of
unemployment.
unemployment.
The health issue, we clearly have to. It is clear, Aruna, that we won't have a vaccine for COVID immediately. So we'll have to learn to live with the possibility of COVID for a while, and then take all the precautions and put all the protocols in place to ensure whatever business activities that we restart, that all the protocols will have to be placed to protect the health. As I said yesterday in another program, health first, everything else is secondary. So while we are attempting to create jobs and to bring back an economic activity as much as possible, we have to come to terms that we have to protect the health of the population, because if you do not have health, money and material things mean nothing to you.
I'm happy that you mentioned unemployment. Mr. PM, on my program yesterday, in which the NIS were guests, it was stated that the National Insurance Board was instructed by Cabinet and engaged a consulting firm based in Canada to design, cost, and advise on the introduction of a temporary unemployment assistance benefit. Now, I'm sure you would have been privy to rumblings of it being insufficient. And of course, you might say government has nothing to do with the overall running of the NIS. Now, bearing in mind that unemployment benefits aren't part of NIS's mandate, your thoughts now on moving forward and including unemployment benefits to the other benefits that they provide, and also the status of the national health insurance?
Well, if the word instruction the cabinet was given, let me first say that it would be an unfortunate word. I would say we advise the NIS as a responsible government, and recognizing that the number of persons, workers that would have lost their jobs because of this event, COVID-19. We advised them that they need to look at, and we in fact advised what we thought was a reasonable amount that they can look at. But it was up to the board to examine this, and of course at the same time come up with means and ways of implementing a program of this nature. Because don't forget, it's the monies of the NIS is the workers' money. It's not government money. It's not some particular individual or group. It's the workers' money. And if the workers are under pressure, clearly the workers' money has to be used to some extent to help. So I just want to clarify this in a very special way. But to add, the NIS, of course, is an independent body. Government has represented, but we do not have even a third. I don't believe in a third of the representation on the board. So clearly the majority of members are workers and employers representative, majority of members of the board. So they, of course, in their own wisdom, their own decision-making process, decided that they would make some commitment, some workers' support for 6 months, and that the average you can be able to make to the workers would be $330. I have not been able to look at the data. It was not given to me. I was not advised as to the proposal they were making. So I couldn't comment on whether the amount given to them, the workers, were in fact all that they can make, because I was not party to the decision-making process. So I think if, as I mentioned on another program yesterday, if the workers have difficulty with what is being proposed, what is going to be given, then their responsibility to speak to the representatives on the board, because the workers have a major say as to the policy decision of the NIS. and of course the employers who are also combined with the union representation are far the more outstream for the government representative on the board. So I suggest that they do so, and whatever they agree to, government representative will certainly support. I think that would be government position.
And what about the national health insurance?
That of course, because of COVID-19, took a back seat. But this is a priority for the government. So the Minister of Health, who is of course working close with the consultant group who have been charged with the responsibility to help us to implement this program, they are going back on track. They have already reconnected and moving forward. Clearly the time frame for completion of it may change somewhat, but the objective and the policy to go forward and to finalize the NHI, which of course COVID-19 is also saying to us, this is absolutely necessary. It brings in the point home that we need to have a national health insurance scheme that is financed appropriately, that can take care of the health needs of every worker in the country as we go forward.
Okay. The stimulus packages that have been designed for various institutions, how is this progressing?
Well, so far we have had tremendous response from the public as a whole. I want to make the point that so far over 2,570 employees have, of course, received payroll support, and which is quite a lot, as you would recognize, and the income support for various businesses like vendors and different persons. So far, $565,800 have been paid out to those persons. And of course, that in the case of the benefiting for taxis, 145 taxis have, of course, benefited. The vendors, 71 vendors have so far got, and buses support from those who have come forward already, 325 income bus support has been made already by the COVID Secretariat. And remember, that's in addition to the number of buses that were contracted by ministries and government agencies and so on, who have been paid by the usual budget. So that's an additional support. So there clearly a lot of other buses have been paid directly. So, and we are continuing to pay those who come forward and meet the basic conditions. So yesterday, for example, I had to correct one of my friends in media when it was said the majority of buses have not got support. I wanted to make the point that a lot of buses have been paid already.
So apart from the stimulus package, also a part of the stimulus package of which busmen are a part of, based on conversations with them on another program yesterday, they've said they've asked for certain concessions, etc., to help, cover operational costs, and that government has turned down all of their requests. Now, understanding that the Ministry of Transportation is handling that side of it, would you be open to having a dialogue with them? Because let's face it, sometimes you go to a business place and while you may have employees to do the job, you prefer to speak to the manager. In this case, you're the manager. Would you be open to
First of all, yeah, no, I have no problem making my own comments on this. It's unfortunate that the bus association, I don't know the representation. Don't forget, we do not have a real serious organized national bus organized situation. They have a limited level of membership in the bus association, as I understand it, and I hope I'm correct. And therefore, the ministry had consultation, the Ministry of Transport, with the bus association from the minister's report. And of course, it is known that government is subsidizing or paying stimulus monies to a lot of the bus owners to support their drivers and conductors and so on, as I just mentioned. So government is already helping the busmen and bus association in general. So that is there. Besides that, many of the busmen got contracts with different ministries to take bringing to staff into work during the COVID, the emergency period. So a number of them have got serious resources. Some cases are doing better than they would have done in normal times based on the contract that they signed. That was there. In addition, it is well known that the price of gasoline has dropped by at least a third. So there is serious savings from that standpoint. So they came forward and indicated remember, government revenues are now dropped considerably. So, and government is helping a lot of workers in the private sector and so on. So government has tremendous demands. Government is also helping buses and with bus payments. But they have come and asked for additional 50 cents. That was the recommendation that they asked the government for. The minister indicated that he will bring the information before the minister by himself can't raise the bus price overnight. So before the cabinet would have met, the next thing I hear about a possible strike. I thought that was unfortunate. And I thought the leadership of the bus association must get their act together. That you cannot threaten a government into submission. That if you have a serious and reasonable position, then you wait for a response. The cabinet has not yet given you a response. This is a controversial matter where for some members of the public would be feeling that maybe that's okay. And the busmen might be feeling that's okay. But there are a lot of people who also feel conversely. So my thing is, why then would you not wait for a response? But when you make a threat, you put the government in a very difficult, unfortunate position that you already took a decision. So I think it's unfortunate that was done, and I think the bus association must get their act together if they hope to have serious responsibility in relationship with any government or any institution. They must operate in a more responsible way. I have great difficulty with this. If the government was to yield now, it looked like we were blackmailed into submission, and that would be any government does this will not be able to govern. So anytime somebody wants something, they just make a threat. That's not how you run any serious business, and I don't think. I just have to speak as Prime Minister of the country that I thought it was extremely unfortunate. And I am not commenting on the validity of the decrease. If you notice that, Aruna, I'm not saying they were right or wrong. I'm simply saying the approach with dealing the government was unprofessional and unfortunate.
Somebody here is asking, what is the criteria for the receipt of payroll support, as many businesses have not yet had any response to their applications?
No, we have stated openly that we are prepared to help each bus for support to the buses of 800 per person, and we indicate that they must register with the NIS and with the Inland Revenue Department, because we must have accountability in the process going forward. And that we have stated so, but we clearly also say to them, if you have a contract with a government body during this period that you're making serious resources with that contract, then you cannot get stimulus support. Similarly, if you have a contract, and we was able to get information with the private sector also. If you are making thousands of dollars in the private sector with a contract, then clearly you can't get stimulus. So it has to be busmen and buses who are not contracted to by either government agencies or body or ministries or the private sector. They were the only basic conditions. So no one would be prevented or not given support if he or she meets those basic conditions and qualify, that we would deny them the right for that. So, and it's still available. So they have a responsibility. I think the COVID Secretariat Committee, who has been working night and day, are planning to do a serious public relation exercise in going forward with information about how people can. We still the proposal is still on the table, but they have to do precisely some basic things in going forward. I could give you an example, Aruna. For example, Carriacou and Peter Martinique. The announcement was not for just the mainland Grenada, for all.
Mm-hmm.
Public Secretary was the ones who came to me and said, Prime Minister, we get in a lot of applications from the mainland, but we see nothing from Carriacou and Peter Martinique, and we know there were buses there. There were businesses there who were marginalized also. And therefore, we want you to speak to the powers to be in Carriacou and indicate to them that there is a serious lack of response for support. So we were asking people to come and get their fair share of what the government was offering. So I'm just saying that those who are not now, remember also, Aruna, there is also a problem with COVID, with the COVID-19 and the emergency operation. A lot of workers were not working. So many of these workers that are coming to work were making enormous sacrifices for themselves and their families by coming in. Now, normally when you pay people, you write a little checks at the ministry and you come and you collect your check. So clearly that was not viable in the COVID and emergency operation because people didn't have buses to come down and so on to get, I'm talking about all persons who qualify. So we're insisting that the other condition I didn't mention, and I need to add that you have to have an account with a bank. And some of them did not have an account. And some of them who gave account gave wrong accounts. Some of them who gave account to one bank was in another bank. So some of them monies went to banks and had to be returned to the Secretariat. So there were a number of challenges with unfortunately, what should have happened, those who they met the conditions and felt they did not get a response on time, they should have called the Secretariat and they would have corrected it because some checks came back to the Secretariat returned by different banks and different financial institutions in the process. I hope I've clarified this, Aruna, using this program as a base.
Great. Mr. PM, in terms of, maintaining the balance of safeguarding public health and safety and keeping the economy alive, and also as we prepare to reopen the borders, what's the plan moving forward?
Well, the COVID-19 subcommittee cabinet appointed team has been working and with the local hoteliers. There are a number of things that have to be put in place and looking at the whole protocol for when the borders are open, someone is coming in from New York or wherever they're coming from. What are the conditions that we will ensure must take place for them to be allowed into the country and be able to move around as they wish? That is being done. We had to also work with all the hotels to make sure they have systems in place, protocols to make sure the sanitizing system is in order in every single hotel property, because somebody can come in to go to any hotel. Some hotels might be ready, some might not be ready. And we can't say because one is ready or two of them are ready, let's open up. Now, if a hotel was having a charter service to bring in someone specifically to the hotel, and they have the protocol already in place, and we have the system in place for testing people when they come in, then they could come in June. That would be okay. But if you come in with a commercial airline that is picking up passengers for any hotel in the country and having to go to any part of Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Martinique, then clearly there's some additional work that must be done to allow the border. So border opening has to be something that is done. The airlines must have systems in place. The hotels, in general, must have that. And of course, the government, the Ministry of Health must have all the protocols established in doing so. So these are some of the fundamental things that we are working on. And remember, when we open up, some people are saying that it's the Caribbean first. If you open up, some countries in the region opening up for international travel early in June, and you open up regional things. Somebody could come from Antigua and they said they're taking Liat to Grenada. What do you do? So in other words, we can't just do it like this. There must be an agreement, and the work we've been working together at the heads of the OECS and the heads of CARICOM to ensure that we put systems in place that's satisfactory to all the countries in the process of opening up our borders. So there are a number of things that are being done, and we feel comfortable at this point in time based on what we see, based on the estimates of the work that's been done and where we are today, that the CUP subcommittee and the Ministry of Health and the task force responsible for tourism and the yachting area and so on have now decided that June 30th looked like the date we think we will be able. We're working towards to ensure that we can have our borders open at that particular time. We are hoping we can do it earlier, but based on all the systems that had to be put in place, it didn't look practical at all.
Because one can understand the concern, bearing in mind that the very first case that we had of COVID-19 was imported. So one can understand, folks' concern about, opening up of borders, etc. Plus, we have, lots of Grenadians who probably would have went on vacation or business or whatever in other countries, and they're exhausted or overstayed their welcome and need to return home.
Well, in fact, there was a proposal on the table with many Grenadians who are abroad in certain cities. And what we had indicated, if they got together as individuals and they could contract an airline to take them in, and they meet the conditions that we agree on for testing before you come, testing when you arrive, and making sure that they're all clear, we are prepared to allow them on a special case. Like I did alluded to that a while ago when I said that if a hotel has contracted a charter service to bring in just passengers for their hotel, and they meet the basic conditions of what the hotels has set and the government has set, then we could allow them in while we're moving towards June 30th for the formal opening.
Mr. PM, something I've noticed and I've mentioned in numerous forums, COVID-19 has exposed a lot of inefficiencies and flaws. And at the same time, it has, some benefits, has brought some benefits with it. Some might say, well, how? But being that, technology for the longest while has been something we've always heard you talking about. COVID has exposed the need for us to be more tech savvy on almost every level, because I'm sure you'd not have imagined that we would be doing this virtual interview right now. You would be present in studio, but here we are.
I would have come there.
Running the nation on technology. So bearing that in mind, will we see improvements being made to the different sectors or the different ministries? So I wouldn't have to run to this ministry and look through paper to go through another one and be all over the place.
Yes, this is an excellent point. And as you know, as the Prime Minister responsible for science and technology in the region, I sometimes feel a bit uncomfortable with the fact that our countries, there's been so much resistance in terms of within the public sector in getting us to utilize the technology a lot more. I think COVID-19 has certainly forced our hand, and to some extent, as you said, it's a blessing in disguise. In that aspect, I must point out, isolatedly so. So I think people are now realizing that we could have used a lot of the things that we're doing. Even, for example, the question of the payment of salaries. We spend a lot of money issuing papers and issuing checks and so on. Well, electronic transfer to the banks, if you have an account, it makes the job of government and so much cheaper. We're saving a lot of money. And the persons who are receiving checks save time and effort and cost in terms of collection of their salary or the revenue that government owes them. So there are lots of benefits that have come from this. Even, for example, travel to the region. A lot of meetings are being held now at the prime ministerial level, at the secretariat level, the CARICOM secretariat and OECS secretariat, by virtually so. And we are solving problems that we could have done this and save us a lot of money through transport and a lot of stress that we go through in spending lots of hours at airports when flights do not come on time. So that has helped considerably. So I don't think we'll ever go back to always having these physical meetings on a regular basis. We will have them, but it would not be as constant and consistent as we were doing before. And so I think that's another part. The question of services to government. Why should someone have to come from Certes and Grenville to come and pay a bill for tax? So all this is going to be online. The services will be online, even if a person in those areas, Carriacou or wherever, or parts of Grenada, they don't have the technology skill, the technological skills. As a granddaughter or grandson or son or brother or something can help you with that payment. So all this is going to reduce costs to the consumers considerably so and make things much easier. The question of the registry, all these are things that we're going to do. The question of license, we should not have to come back into the ministry with long lines to pay bills and so on. All that would be a thing of the past. In addition, Aruna, and I need to make this point here today, we are already embarking on a program called Digital Governance Program, which is funded by with the first country in the OECS and in the region who has got support from the World Bank with a very soft financing of $15 million US. This is over 40 million EC dollars to embark on digital governance throughout the entire governmental system. So we are ahead of the game in that respect, and some major decisions are going to be made in terms of moving the project forward. In fact, there's a Caribbean component of that project, which is going to meant to increase the services in the region of how we operate with each other at various levels in the CARICOM region. So that is another component, the OECS, that of the project. So it will make business between the region and the business within our own countries far more effective than before. And we got another $8 million to support that project at the OECS level. And as I mentioned, 15 million US dollars for the local component. And as you know, we have developed a platform that with MGRM that now gives us the opportunity to a lot of the services that we're talking about, even before we get the digital governance project in place. And that is being used now by the Ministry of Education while they are home. Teachers were trained. Some of them need to upgrade their skills in that area, but that is a work in progress. So that a lot of children are being taught home now through this virtual platform that we have. And I think the OECS is now wanting to embark on this program. And when they came forward at the Ministers of Education meeting recently that they had virtually, when we pointed out that we were ahead of the game, these countries were shocked. They did not realize that Grenada has a platform already that can provide serious educational services. We are the only country in the OECS that was ahead of the game in that program. So I am confident that where we are right now, we're in a good wicket, and that we should use the COVID-19 lessons to modernize our operation of government and modernize every aspect of development in our country.
I know you have to run, but I have two more questions before you go.
Sure, go ahead.
Piggybacking off of one of my colleagues, Mr. PM, over the past couple of weeks, even when we were on lockdown, I am seeing the police making major hauls of marijuana and millions they're quoting of marijuana on drug busts for the past couple of weeks. So when are we going to have that conversation, Mr. Prime Minister? Whether it's decriminalization, you're seeing other countries saying they're making how much they're growing and exporting and doing all these things, and we are burning, and yet still we are saying, our economy is in the red, we're not making enough money, we can't do this, we can't do that, but we're burning money literally. When are we going to have that conversation about marijuana? When are we going to put on the table?
We should have the conversation. The conversation should have started. But of course, we have to weigh the pros and cons. I don't think we're seeing the police moving persons with having marijuana here and there. The police spending the time on this. Why in the books? But I think the whole question of commercial activities as far as marijuana, and don't forget, Aruna, while we're talking marijuana, people use the opportunity as they have noticed to go to the higher level of drugs. So it's not just a question of marijuana, other drugs that are used in this period. So we have to be very careful in going forward. I'm cannot tell you that at any one side of the fence completely, but I recognize that the world is changing, and that some of the issues that we were very conservative about before, certainly we have to change some of our thinking, and clearly this government has to do precisely this. So we have to engage the population in a general sense. But I know this is still indeed a controversial issue, and anytime you have an issue of this nature, no matter how you feel, you have to be very careful in how you go forward in implementing such an initiative.
So, final question before we go: how would you rate governments and, of course, our frontline workers' overall handling of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I'll rate the workers A plus because of their performance and the sacrifices they were making, and they're at all levels in the society. Not all the workers I must say that there is a tendency when we speak loosely. If there is a weakness in an area, we say, well, public service workers not working. That's not true. Similarly, it's wrong to say that, oh, the public workers are doing so well, so we need to give them increases. Some of them are, not all of them. Similarly, I would not go and say all medical workers must be given during COVID period, because some stepped up to the plate, some hid. That's a fact. And therefore, we have to identify the category and groups of workers in every single area and give them the credit, and applaud the frontline workers in general who came forward and provided enormous service at this critical juncture, at great sacrifices to themselves physically, emotionally, and otherwise. So I want to make this point. And you have the garbage collectors, for example. Sometimes we forget these people at this level. I was driving around during COVID period, and I see these garbage collectors with their face mask collecting garbage. And if they don't collect the garbage, the chances are COVID-19, if it's around, would spread even faster than we would have. So they have played an enormous part at great risk to themselves in a general sense. Those who are doing security work in various areas have made sacrifices for themselves and in doing their work, and their supporters in general. And a lot of the workers in so many areas, there's so many to talk about that we won't have the time to go through all the list of persons. But I do want to make the point. The cabinet of the country, the sacrifices are made by members. Some people have their own underlying health problems, while some people stayed home because they had it, and we indicated to them to be careful. Some cabinet members had to come to work and be working, and at great sacrifice to themselves physically and otherwise. So I want to applaud all of them, all who have made those enormous sacrifices. So I am not going to be here. There's some people, and I've seen some leaders grading themselves A. I will not do that. I don't think I should be grading myself, but I will not give myself an A. I will not give the government an A. I believe we've tried our best. I think we have done a lot of excellent work, but I think there have been shortcomings. And I'm the first to admit this. You know, I believe COVID-19 was something that none of us was prepared for. I clearly, there's some things in looking back, if we are more prepared, we could have done it differently. There's no doubt in my mind. So I wouldn't give myself an A, but at the same time, I don't think I would want to grade myself. For me.
Mr. PM, you have to come back in the room, because we have a lot of questions that we still need to ask. We haven't touched on the whole agriculture and the outcome of it as a result of COVID, and some of the things you'd have exposed as well. We have to touch the whole minimum wage and all of that. So we're looking for a commitment from you that you'll be back in the ladies' room so we can continue the conversation.
How could I refuse to be back with you, Aruna? How could I refuse to be back in the ladies' room? If you stay away from the ladies, then you are going to be hurt in every sense of the word. And this Prime Minister, will never stay away from ladies. Just remember that. So I look forward to being back in the ladies' room not long from now.
Final word for you go.
Yeah, just to say this is, I felt this is a very excellent program. I think Aruna, you've been doing an excellent job in communicating with the public. The relaxed approach to how you do this program is certainly catching on in the country as a whole. I want to commend you and your station for the excellent work that you're doing in communicating with the population as usual.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Looking forward to having you back again. Thanks so much.
Look forward.
Bye-bye. And that is your ladies' room for today. And of course, for this week, we'll be back next week with another edition of our ladies' room. And of course, it came to you through the kind compliments of Western Union, Subway, and Beacon Insurance. Thank you so very much to all the folks who were. I have to go back and read some of these comments. Thank you so much to all the folks who are following along. Like I said, not enough time. I know there are lots of other questions, and you guys would have had questions of your own. We'd have loved to ask, but we will seek on another date to have the PM back to address some of those questions. So what I'll do is go through and take off some of the questions you've got, and we'll highlight them the next time he's here. We're definitely going to hold him to bringing him back in the ladies' room. All right. So thanks so much, everybody, and of course, stay powered up. We've got more coming your way right here on Power 95.
Ladies' Room comes to you